2 spots at the ESL 1 Cologne 2016 offline qualifier. I am Parla, also known as Mantrus, and I'm joined by the wonderful Natu and Metas. Guys, how are you doing?
It's doing great. I mean, this is going to be a good, I think it's a good weekend of Counter-Strike. A bunch of teams that are around the same level of skill, obviously, so I think it's going to be a really, really tough battle towards the major qualifiers.
Completely agree. This is an incredibly competitive tournament. There are a handful of teams that could conceivably win this. So I'm really looking forward to it. You know, you've got likes of Dignitas who probably come into this as one of the favorites, but they've been so sketchy lately, right? So it's hard to really call.
Yeah, because not necessarily the highest level of teams are here. There could be a slight underwhelming kind of idea around what's going on, but these teams are very competitive. The matches that are going to happen have a lot of promise to them. Who are you guys' picks going into this tournament?
I mean, like he kind of said there, Metas, I think the thing is that there's a lot of teams here that have basically almost made it to the very top, but then just at the last hurdle, they always crumble. Dignitas, obviously, bombed out of the MLG qualifiers last time around. We have SK also, same thing, they lost 0-2. I think it was CLG and Vex back then, now AGG they lost against. And also Hellraisers, it's a bit of a team that's always, you know, they made it in the major qualifier last time, they lost to Liquid in a match that they should have really won. So I think the theme is basically that you have a bunch of teams here that have almost made it. They may have actually have the ingredients to be a part of a major qualifier, even a major, but just seems like they always just seem to fall just at the crunch time where it really matters.
Completely agreed. Sivo was obviously very, well, just a few days ago, really, like a week or so ago. And Dignitas, again, alongside SK, took part in that. SK beat Dignitas. They wrecked them 2-0 on maps like Cobblestone, which is where Dignitas you'd fancy to actually beat most teams on that map. So I can't really disagree with anything Natu just said. There's a lot of teams that are on that brink, that precipice of going to the next level, but they always seem to stumble over their own shoelaces, right? So for me, the dark horses or the teams I expect to be going through to the finals, likes of Hellraisers, Dignitas, I think ENCE have a really good chance as well. These 3 teams, I think, are going to be hard to beat.
It's going to be interesting to see who ends up in that final, because like we've covered just now, it's going to be very competitive, but why don't we take a look in more detail at the groups, specifically starting off with Group A. Natu, would you like to run us down what's going on?
I mean, I guess the favorites here has to be Dignitas, obviously, at SK Gaming being the second one. But Orbit, previously known as EFRAG, always a competitive team. Everyone started to look at them a year ago at the Star Ladder Finals when they beat Envy. But sort of, again, another team that hasn't been able to take the next step. Epsilon, I guess we know the least about, but the core of this lineup took part in the previous minor, and they did relatively well, so you never know really, but obviously against the likes of Dignitas, they should be struggling, but Dignitas and SK has to be the favorites going out of this group.
Totally agree with that. I think Epsilon, for a lot of people, probably the least well-known team, the team that people don't expect to go that far in the tournament. Next group, of course, Godsent. And Godsent is actually a team I forgot before. That's another team that I think will be getting through to the latter stages. Hellraisers and Lounge Gaming. From this group, I would probably go along with Godsent and Hellraisers, but ENCE, they're right on the brink.
This is a very competitive group. Would you say this is more competitive than Group A?
It's a group of death, right?
This is, I think, it's the more competitive of the two, really. I mean, you could really, at the end of the day, have any of the 4 teams go through, but I guess Godsent has to be the favorite. They had a really good show in the Malmo Masters, so they always show up on LAN. Online, their results are a little bit shaky. They will lose against teams you expect them to win, but then obviously Pronax is a really good leader. He's going to get them to calm down in this kind of environment where he gets to sit with his buddies and play Counter-Strike. So I feel like they're going to be making it through that group.
Which teams do you think are most likely to struggle or potentially kind of crumble under the pressure that we are going to be seeing at this event?
Epsilon for me.
Yeah, I mean, they are the obvious choice, really, but I mean, it's going to be, for me, it's going to be just new Dignitas, since they are a team that we're going to be expecting to go through. They play in the big leagues all the time. They play against the top dogs all the time. But
saying that, MLG, the qualifier for MLG, like we were talking about before, just before we went live, SK and Dignitas, both, they crumbled under the pressure. That's exactly what happened. Is there any chance they could, against competition which could be considered lesser to them, could that happen again now?
I mean, it could, obviously, but at the end of the day, you have to assume that they're going to be learning from their mistakes and simplify their game and just basically trust in their fundamentals that they have nailed down. Because Dignitas is a really good team at doing executes. They're really good at that. The only minus we they see with the way they play is that they're really stubborn. It seems like MSL just goes with the choices made previously. He doesn't really like to adapt too much, so that could be an issue. It depends on the teams how much they actually increase their ability to adjust and how much the teams are going to be reading up to them and so forth. So, I mean, you'd still expect them to go through.
Well, Dignitas seem to have that classic Danish trait of choking. When they come up against teams that they should beat, they went to Copenhagen Games, everyone's like, well, Digger are definite. You know, they're going to win this. There's no doubt they get wrecked. You're looking at Sivo, again, one of the favorites. They get wrecked by SK. It's happened time and time again. MLG qualifies as well. They end up getting knocked out in the early stages. So you're thinking to yourself, at what point did Dignitas finally start to deliver again? You know, Leipzig and GEC is when they started to break out. You had Kirby going nuts consistently.
Yeah.
Now they're having issues. MSL, of course, coming out with his Facebook, Twitter type message. I'm not sure if it was Facebook.
Which one
or
was
Twitter.
that? Because I know there was one a couple of weeks ago. Which message is it that you're referring to?
Well, he's trying to address what's been
Yeah,
the
that one,
issues,
yeah.
and basically
Exactly.
address how the ship has been going down,
Yeah.
how they can try and fix this, talking about they always feel like they're the underdogs and there's a lot of pressure on them and these kind of things. Now, at some point, you have to realize that you are at the position now where you're no longer the underdogs, where people expect you to deliver. Now, they have a very young roster. They've got Kirby, who's this monster player. He has all this potential, but he's fits and starts, right? Like, he'll have one map where he's a god, the next map he's completely absent. They need to try and get some consistency there.
And also another point to be made is that there's a bunch of teams here that have stand-ins, obviously.
Yes, they do.
Orbit is one of them, obviously. Dreamer cannot be playing at
Certain
Valve
other team as well.
Yeah, has to be, like you said, Nasu's going to be playing for Ans instead
Yes.
of Stonda. And then you have Cadian playing on SK instead of Freeze, because Freeze is going through a surgery, not allowed to travel. So, I mean, that's an interesting dynamic, really. I think maybe you could potentially think that maybe it's SK that has, or SK and Orbit, probably the two that are going to be affected least, because obviously Orbit has been playing with Punisher quite a bit, and then Cadian is really familiar with the guys on the Ends part. It's going to be kind of interesting, obviously, because Stonda is a very good opper, and then Nasu he's not an opper. He's more a support role, so that's going to change the whole dynamic of the team. So that's going to also be interesting to see how they fare.
Plus, with Cadian, they just qualified for Starlad, right?
Yeah.
Playing with him, so they've got some success already with Cadian.
Yeah, well, potentially quite an unpredictable tournament. And so why don't we take a look at the first team and see if we can get some information on who they are, who is behind SK.
Yep, let's go through the players here a little bit then. Magic's boy, obviously, he's been a talking point for quite a while. The young gun in SK has struggled on LAN, has to be said. Before the CEVO, he wasn't really being able to be impactful in the LAN tournaments, but had a decent showing at the CEVO finals, so a player to be look after there. Caden, obviously, standing here.
Who looks very excited, by the way, in that picture. Caden's looking very happy with himself.
He seems to be the Mr. Stand-in. He's standing in for a lot of teams recently. Obviously, a formidable opper, and just all-around really decent player. Vasilian has a long history with Freeze, who's obviously not here. They played together in Copenhagen Wolves previously. Pimp had his moment in Dignitas trying to be the opper, didn't really work out. Luckily enough, he's gone back to being a rifler, and he's a really good rifler as well.
He had quite a good tournament, though, at Gfinity.
Yeah, he did. I was actually casting the game. He dropped 230s, rolling back the months, the years, so to speak. He was an absolute beast. So.
And then last but not least has to be Modi, obviously. He's a legend from 1.6. Used to play, for example, in SK back in the day. He's been known for being a little bit of a hothead, hard to handle, I guess. But never know. I guess as the years gone by, he's gotten a little bit older. Maybe he's cooled down a little bit. Not going to be going back and forth with these shenanigans to his teammates. I remember him going, quite ham on his teammates back in the days.
In this roster, him and Freeze, they're kind of like the guys with the most experience.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And being a team that can maybe get a bit emotional sometimes, we saw that slightly happen at Fragbite last year, but they had Freeze on board. Could it be that maybe without his influence here, they could be a bit more partial to going off the rails, or is that incorrect?
I mean, for what I know, really, I've never really played with Freeze from observing them play and stuff. It seems to me like Freeze is, he can be also a bit of a hothead too.
Yeah.
So it's going to be to see how, Cadian, what kind of dynamic he's going to bring into the team. Maybe it might actually be, if there's less egos in the team, so to speak, it could actually be beneficial in terms of how the mood is in the team.
Well, wasn't it Freeze that tweeted after a loss saying that his team were effectively onliners, right? So
really?
we know he's a hot-headed guy as well, and he will go ham if he feels his team isn't performing. Obviously, he's not here. But yeah, just to go back to the point, that they can definitely push the self-destruct button from time to time.
Metis, why don't you point out a particular player to look out for on SK?
It's a hard one to call, because typically I'd have probably said Freeze. I feel like he holds together a lot of different dynamics with the AWP. I feel Pimp was so good at parts at CEVO that I'm very curious to see if he is going to continue that kind of performance. But Magic's Boy also had a good performance at CEVO as well. It's one of the first times you've really seen him stood up to the plate and deliver. So I'd probably go with Magic's Boy. I'm really curious to see how he's going to perform today.
Why don't we expand on him a bit then? Because he is the guy that came in fresh at the end of last year, around that period, and he had a lot of individual talent, a lot of raw power. Would you say he started to fulfill that potential yet, or there's still some building to do?
Yeah, I mean, it's a hard process. It's not so straightforward. It doesn't work the same way for each player. He's been, having to take a bit of time to get adjusted to playing in this situation where he's on LAN. Obviously, at his comfort of home, he's been really performing. Even people been calling him for literally hacking. So, I mean, that tells a story in itself how good of a player he is. So the way he played in CEVO, he needs to find that same mode, the same mood he was playing with in that tournament, and just keep building on that. Just putting those blocks together. All
right, well guys, should we move on to their opponent, Orbit? You guys watching might know them better as EFrag, the Bulgarian team that have been kind of on the rise, but maybe now slowing down a bit. Because about a year and a half ago, these guys were beating some top-tier opponents. They were doing well, and they were rumored to be, and they were talked about as if they were going to be the next big thing. But they haven't necessarily achieved that. Am I wrong in saying that, Metis, Natu?
Yeah, you're right. I mean, they've been a team that, like I said earlier, last year, one of the Star Ladder finals, they beat Envy. They really got on the map with a lot of people, but then sort of just haven't been able to take that next step. That's been their problem. But going through their roster a little bit here, Bubble, as the first guy, has to be, he's the star for me on this lineup. He had a really good tournament in Copenhagen Games back a couple months ago, and really versatile player, can play with pretty much all the weapons, really, and you see him a lot on the op. Punisher, that's the guy who's going to be filling in for Dreamer, who's their fifth, but obviously for some vacuuming issues, he's not going to be able to play here. Spy Leader, he's also one of the better players in my opinion on this lineup. Together with Bubble, I think they were the two that had the biggest impact in Copenhagen Games. Then the round off, we have Victor, NKL as well, and yeah, I mean, best map cache also. There's a bit of a story there. That's one of their go-to maps. They always seem to elect to go on that one, and for a reason, really, because they are actually a dangerous team when it comes to cache.
I remember as well, going back a year or so ago, that they had some ridiculous T-strats in Inferno. Obviously, Inferno is not in the map pool for this, so that's no longer really an issue, but they are a very solid T-sided team. The thing is, I know this triggers both of us, they force buy a hell of a lot when they really should save. And this is their Achilles heel. This is what straight up has lost them so many matches in the past.
And also, the way they approach things is that when it comes to Veto, they like to play pretty much all the maps. Obviously, we don't know now. The dynamics has changed. We have Nuke in the pool. We don't have Inferno anymore. How's that going to change things? But previously, they've always elected to veto the strength of their opponent instead of their own weakness, which in a way makes sense. You want to have that situation, but I'm not really sure if their map pool is strong enough to go withstand that and just go through with that kind of a style.
Well, we've got the veto on screen now, and the first ban coming from Orbit is Overpass.
That makes sense. That's SK's bread and butter, so it always makes sense to me right now. When it comes to Orbit, they really like to go to Mirage, they go to Cache usually, and Dust 2 makes sense also. SK plays the map, but their track record on the map is not really that good. I think on LAN they are right now something like 0-2 in the recent couple of months, so it's not one of their go-to maps.
Generally, Metis, in a best-of-1 veto like this, would you say it's more about picking a map that you're confident on, or picking a map that is more like against the other team? Because like a Dust 2 ban, is that to do with the fact that maybe they don't feel comfortable playing a team that they haven't got too much experience against?
In a best-of-1 format like this, you have to just try and pick a map that you're comfortable on. Because there's so many bans there, the chances of you getting a map the enemy team doesn't want is really low. It's like slim to none. The one thing I'm a bit surprised by is that Cobblestone is still in the pick process, because SK are a pretty solid Cobblestone team. They wrecked Dignitas at CEVO on this map. And I think it was like 16-3, 16-4 was a complete obliteration.
Yeah,
so they're like this in the map pool still.
Recently, Orbit, they played at the ESEA Premier Finals just, last week.
Oh, here we go.
They beat Hellraise 16-11 on it. So, I mean,
We've ended up with
Orbit has had some recent get positive results on the map. So I'm guessing, you know, it's probably going to be one of the maps that they've been working on recently and elected to go on this. But also for SK, it's one of the maps that they really do favor, like you said there. So, you know, this is an interesting veto.
I'm actually really happy with this map.
Yeah.
I think it's a map both teams will be relatively happy with themselves. So this could be a sick matchup for the first match here.
Okay, well, I'm sure it will deliver. We will have to see. Who knows? It could be a blowout either way. I'm not sure, excuse me, I'm not sure if we are ready to move into it yet. So why don't we just talk a bit more about what's going on overall in this tournament. Do you think that there is any chance we are going to see some nuke action over the course of this event?
Unlikely.
I think it's a little bit too early, really. I mean, the same with Train, for example, when I was introduced to the map pool, it took, I would say, up to 6 months before teams started to be more comfortable on the map. You know, it's just so much to work with right now. With the 7 maps in the pool, a lot of teams seem to be, you know, obviously they have the 4 to 5 maps they're pretty good on, so then adding a different map once again, that's a bit of a, you know, a bit of a pickle. But thinking of these teams that are trying to make it to the top of the scene, they should actually pick up on you.
We have about a minute left, by the way, guys.
They should really work on the map. So, I mean, we'll see. We'll see how that works out.
Personally, I'd be really surprised if we see nuke. I feel like we may see it from a team that is the heavy underdogs and is like, screw it. But both teams are very likely going to ban nuke anyway. It's going to be best of 3, I think, is maybe where nuke rears its head, and best of 1, I can't see it being played.
Okay, and so then finally, can I push you guys for some predictions for this best of 1?
I mean, if you ask me, it has to be SK in this situation. They beat Dignitas 16-3. Dignitas is a really good Cobble team. Beating them 16-3 at Sivo, obviously one of the highlights for me. But I think what's really tricked Orbit to take or play Cobblestone or leave it out there is how the result against Hellraisers just a week ago. So they probably feel comfortable on the map, but at the same time playing against SK, who I feel like just has a better track record on the map. So you have to favor SK.
Can't really add anything. I completely agree. I think SK have got this.
Okay.
In terms of score, like 16-10, something like that, I would say.
I would agree. I think all 3 of us are going to go with SK, and if I'm not mistaken, we are pretty much ready to go to the match because we were just waiting for the knife round to happen. Could I get confirmation of that? Because then we will, of course... But yes, we are good to go. And so we are going to get into this first match of DreamHack Tours and head over to Helium and Launders.
Well, hello.
Hi, I'm Wonders. What's up?
I'm Helium. How you doing, buddy?
It's all good, bro. It's all good. So yeah, we only
Paulus is going to walk away.
Yeah, he's done.
Walk of shame
He's
happening
actually
right
done.
now. Can we get that on camera, please?
I actually
Can we get that on camera?
thought at first he was trolling, and then the look on his face was like, no, he actually thought we were passing it to the other 2 casters.
Well, you know, these things happen. So,
It's all
SK
good.
versus Orbit. What's your name? I mean, obviously we just went through a little bit, but Cobblestone, Orbit versus SK.
I mean, for the first game of the tournament, are SK warmed up? Are they ready? Are they going to start slow? Some teams do start slow.
Yeah.
Maybe this is the moment now for Orbit to get themselves on the board and cause the upset. But that being said, SK, yes, they had a good performance at Sivo. Before that, what have they realistically done? Very little, even online. So we're basing this off the victory against Dignitas, which was a fantastic victory, but Dignitas honestly didn't show up at Sivo on top of that. So I don't know how much you can really take from that result.
Yeah, and now it's going to be, for me, interesting to see, really. We just went through, talked about how they've... Orbit has had issues when it comes to forwards playing. Their economy control is just atrocious. So I'm hoping, please, wishful thinking, that they've actually learned a lesson and learn how to eco every once again. Because they can really destroy the game very quickly, especially on the CT side if they start force buying way too much. Because on Cobblestone, especially towards the B-bomb side, you need a lot of utility to just try and take off any potential fast pushes from the Ts.
Absolutely. Incendiaries are massive in places like Drop Zone upon B platform. If you don't have the extra bucks to make that work, you are effectively going to play yourself out. And I was curious as well if with Punisher coming in for Dreamer, and Dreamer was one of their best players, I think it's definitely safe to say, if they would revert back into a more standard play style, because Dreamer with pistols in his hands would make miracles happen on a frequent basis. Maybe with him not being in the roster now, they decided to say, okay, guys, we don't have the firepower we once did. Now's the time to bring ourselves back in. I'm not sure. I'm curious to see if that's going to be the case or not.
Yeah, exactly. There we see Asilian is Also, one of the more, it seems to me, to be honest with you, I mean, as we see, SK has been struggling quite a bit in terms of psychological side, but Asilian also is one of the guys that seems to kind of get on the edge every now and again, especially when things start getting rough. It seems like it's an issue, and actually, generally speaking, it feels to me like a lot of teams have that issue, obviously. Something that people don't realize, obviously, if they don't compete at high-level tournaments, is that just being mentally in check is a really, really important factor in terms of just being able to get everything out of yourself.
That's very true, and they really haven't been to that many big events in recent memory in CS. So again, it's testing their mental fortitude just as much as their in-game skills.
And the good thing for SK, I guess, well, if you can call it a good thing, obviously Freeze is not here due to the situation where he's just had a surgery, able to travel, obviously, and they have Cadian come in, but he's a quite prominent opper, and he's really familiar with the guys. Obviously, he played with SK previously. He's pretty much played with all of these players before, so getting into the groove of things for him, I don't think it's going to be a massive issue, but I think we are finally now getting into the match, so I guess we can just get ready to see what is going to happen. We are right into the pistol round already. It seems like we're going to have SK on the T side. There's a Molotov and 2 smokes for them to be played, and they're going to be going towards the B bomb side. It's going to be Magic's boy getting the first kill.
Let's get traded back, though, and it's going to be NKL with 2 frags, looking for a third one as well. Going to pull out his knife, but it's going to be Bayonets. He'll come out second best from Pimp, but in the meanwhile, it's gone down to Pimp himself in a 1v2, only 12 HP. You're going to have to make that USP sing from with 2 headshots. You've got to feel, look at that bomb's dropped as well, Natu.
Yeah.
In the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, exactly. This is desperate times right now for him. He's only got 12 HP to his name, a USP, no utility at all. Meanwhile, his counterparts have 100 HP both, so this is going to be close to an impossible one unless Pimp's going to be able to make 2 fast headshots. But for the CTs, they just have to be smart about it to make sure that they at least get the trade this kill quickly. So what you don't want to do is give Pimp 2 individual one-on-ones, but Pimp's going to get one right here. But Victor makes it happen, and it's going to be Orbit getting the pistol round.
And one of his nicknames is Vactor because he is the kind of player that can just pull out the most ridiculous plays. Special maps like Overpass, that seems to be his stomping ground. So here's a comfortable cleanup in the end from Orbit. And NKL with his 2 frags and drop zone was pretty massive.
Exactly, yeah, that was a fast speed push, not working out in the end for SK, but look at this. The Danish guys have decided to force buy into this. They have Tech 9s, upgraded pistols, armors, and all the utility, and seems like it's going to be a set piece towards that B bomb site. Madi already smoking off towards that little hole in the ledge. Just waiting for the right moment. Now, it's just a matter of time before the push comes in, and if Orbit CTs are going to be ready for it or not.
Definitely the case. Orbit, the kind of team that if they do get momentum on the CT sides, though, can definitely run away with it. And of course, Cobblestone, the kind of map that you alluded to before, can really go heavily in the way of the Ts. Modi just walks out, though. No one's going to be bothering him whatsoever. Into drop zone he moves, since a lot of real estate gets picked off. Cadian's the next to fall. Orbit are retaining a player advantage, albeit with only a HE left and NKL down to sub 50 HP. This is doable from SK, but Orbit surely going to hold on to this. That flashbang destroying multiple players, though MP9 comes out, not able to get the kill. And that leaves Pimp once again. This time to 1v3. He's been spotted, and that HE does land on his head, so you've got to feel like it's only delaying inevitable here.
Exactly, that's I think it's the situation. The bomb is down also. All 3 CTs on the bomb site right now. And there goes Bubble's going to get that kill, and that's going to be SK going down. 2-0 for Orbit, but that seemed a little bit sketchy there for a moment for Orbit, because Madi getting that kill towards the drop zone just seemed a little bit too free for me, for my liking, to be honest with you, but it seemed like his teammates were not able to pull up on the push towards the bomb site. They were not able to circulate around the CTs on the bomb site, getting mowed down and leaving Pimp alone in a 1-on-3 in the end. That's going to be SK now in a save round.
Yep, full on save. Just got a Deagle, a couple of P250s in. Modi with the Deagle right now, capable of landing headshots. And on maps like Cobblestone, he is definitely one of the players that will look to lurk, but also entry frag if the opportunity's out there. So expect to see him have a quick cheeky peek out the Deagle, see if he can land a 1-Deag. But Orbit with their weaponry should be A-OK just to hold on to this B site, no problems.
Unless Madi can go really ham here, he's going to get that headshot. As I say, that's going to be the entry going his way. And the rest of his team just waiting for the right moment to go down the drop, but Spy Leader is ready here. Meanwhile, Victor gets the first kill, and here comes the push from SK, but Spy Leader with the MP9. Let's get the first one, but that's still going to be traded away, and it becomes a 3-on-3.
Orbit are continually losing weapons, though, and this could definitely catch up with them later if they can't close it out from here, and they have lost another player. It's Modi, who with the running one-tap makes it, I was going to say, a realistic hope to get this round back, but Nope, Orbit hold on. That being said, though, they lost 3 weapons in that
Yeah.
round. 2 or 3 the round before, so they're not going to be fantastic economically speaking.
Exactly. Well, that's a good point to be made. So good job from SK, even though they haven't been able to pick up a round so far. As we can see right now, it also means that since, like you said, SK getting all those kills, Orbit has to make a little bit of compromises here. 2 FAMAS in play, no AWP, a bunch of utility, but like I said, they can't really fall back on all too much if they lose this one.
And they don't have an AWP even, Atu. That's the other thing. You'd love to have an AWP in this kind of situation.
Exactly. Build up for the round is starting here. Seems like a slow kind of a default round from SK. They want to work that A-long area. Meanwhile, Madi and his teammate here working towards the B-bomb side. Not a whole lot to talk about here so far in this round.
Yeah, just standard stuff from the terrorists trying to poke and probe. See if there's any weaknesses from Orbit. Now, typically so far, they've got a lot of success through drop zone. So, and of course, drop zone and Cobblestone is a massive area. It's a hot spot. You're expecting T-sides to try and push and punish.
Yeah.
But Orbit haven't really expended too much of their grenades so far. They've still got 2 incendiaries in their hands.
Yeah, SK was expecting aggressiveness from Orbit definitely there. They smoked off the halfway through, basically trying to cut off the middle of the map and then take over the side hall and the stairs between the middle and side hall. See if there's any CTs there. Not being able to find anything with 45 seconds on the clock. Still a bunch of utility. 2 smokes and a bunch of flashes. Seems like a B executor's coming in. Mod is going to get the first kill right away. That's going to initiate the push.
He's doing this time and time again at Gfinity as well against Dignitas. And that's going to be a worrying trend for Orbit. Already losing 1 player. Yes, there's 30 seconds left, but it alleviates so much pressure getting that first kill. It's going to be all on Spy Leader. I've got a feel here. If he gets a couple of kills for his team, it's possible, but he goes down without a fight. And that now leaves the Punisher and Victor left. They're both going to fall. And with Orbit's economy already down the drain, that round could be good for 2 or 3 for SK.
Yep, nothing really happening for the first minute and 10 seconds there, but in the end it was Madi getting that first kill, and then the push initiated by that first kill. Going to the B bomb side, and it seemed to me like Orbit players were not really playing off of each other. They were too much individually trying to dig duels. The player in Chicken Coop wasn't really helping. He was just baiting his whole defense there, trying to get some cheeky kills after his teammates went down. Obviously not working out, and it's going to be a force buy coming in for Orbit.
I'm so surprised.
I am triggered already. 2 M4s, some 5.7s and a CZ in play, and no kits, just very little utility. So now this is a round where SK needs to be ready for that aggressiveness that they were ready for in the previous round.
Yeah, maybe Orbit trying to play the mind games. SK maybe assuming it will just be pistols and an eco. Orbit using pretty aggressive positions as a result of having a lack of grenades, so trying to compensate for that. And if Bubble is going to get the spray down, I was about to say that could have got a bit sticky for SK. As it stands, though, the trades are going their way, and now it's just the pistols that remain, one of which is going to be put to use from Punisher. Picks up an AK, but with only 1 HP left. Not long for this world.
Exactly. Great awareness from SK there. Again, being wary of the possibility that Orbit could be really aggressive, and it's exactly what they were. SK took the precautions, and they managed to trade correctly. They get in a 3-on-2, and this is where they slow things down. It seems like they're going to be probing towards that B-bomb site. NKL is in a bit of an aggressive position with a 5-7. This could get hairy if he gets the first kill. He's going to get an opportunity and gets the kill too. 20 HP left. Oh, gets another one, but then Cadian comes in, and now it becomes a 1-on-1.
That should never happen. How have Orbit even got close to bringing this round back? CZ is going to open up, doesn't get it on the first time of asking, and now Spy Leader on 34 HP has to go back in for seconds. Molotov lands. Cadian, how have you not got this kill just yet? This would be brutal for SK to lose, and they're going to lose it as well. Orbit pick it up 4-1.
Oh, wow.
Your reaction there sums it up perfectly. Just what the hell?
I don't know. First things first, I think the first mistake you can make in a one-on-one situation, by the way, is taking a nade out. Anything Molotov, grenade, HE, whatever. Don't take anything out. Just keep your weapon out, because it always seems to be, especially when you're playing an opponent that has a lesser weapon, it's just going to try to be aggressive over and over again. So, I mean, overall, I mean, that's obviously a lot of work done by NKL. Up until that point, SK was playing so perfectly, trading kills very well. They were aware of the possibility of the aggressiveness of Orbit, and then just crumbled in the end. It seems like the B push is coming in.
It certainly does. This time it's SK's turn to force buy. They got the UMP, no one checks just below the platform, and NKL is going to make them definitely rue the opportunity. USP is brought out now, just switch the UMP, which still has all the bullets left in the chamber, but the rest of his team is just cleaning this one up. No problems whatsoever. That leaves Pimp again in another clutch. He's good for 1 kill, but not clean, down to 20 HP. and he will just be backing away. And it's a long time if he wants to save this AK as well. 1 minute and 5 to play with.
Yeah, that was a messy push from SK, has to be said. They forced bot into it, potentially out of frustration, but it's still viable in Cobblestone to try to force buy and have the utility they had and try to do a set piece or the B bomb set, but it seemed like it was a little bit, you know, iffy, edgy, whatever you want to call it. They really didn't manage to flash their CT counterparts, and I think it was Victor that was up close that managed to get all those kills, wasn't it? So it was not a good execute from SK.
Yeah, NKL, one of the players you don't necessarily expect to see from Orbit stepping up, is top fragging right now, albeit with Bubble just behind him. And you did highlight Bubble beforehand. He is indeed on fire. And SK, with it being a best of 1 as well, if Orbit get the best of this trade, which you assume that they will do with 17 seconds, Pim just wants to make sure he doesn't die after time, so he has some economy moving forward. But that's 5-1, and there was a couple moments where you're thinking Orbit were on the brink of just getting completely collapsed.
Yeah, exactly. The one where we were saying again, they're force buying. Why are they force buying? But the thing is, they make it work sometimes, and that's why what really triggers them to do it once.
Yep.
Like every single time, I suppose, and that's what triggers us to the brink of being mad, basically. But this time around now, SK is going to be smart enough to save it, just upgrading pistols. Bit of a throwaway round, no utility either. Trying to just work their way towards the A side.
It's going to be slow and steady here from SK. They have no utility to play with, just a P250 in the hands of Pimp. Rest of the team with Glocks. Best they can hope for is maybe take a couple weapons away from Orbit, maybe a cheeky bomb plant. That's about all, though.
That's pretty much all she can write on at this point. Here comes the push from the side hall, but Victor is ready for it. He's going to get that first kill. Now gets the second and the third one before Pimp manages to trade it away, but still, that's the damage done pretty much. I don't think they're going to be even getting that bomb plant out. And now with just Pimp left, I think it's pretty much over. It's just waiting here, trying to get a cheeky kill, but then again, if Orbit players are smart enough, they're not going to be pushing him. Instead, they are. Bubble does what I thought he shouldn't have done, but having the armor, having the better weapon, obviously, is going to help him out.
That's what makes Orbit such a frustrating but entertaining team to watch. They are hyper-aggressive on their CT and T sides. That is with their economy as well. So 6-1 now. SK will have a full buy-up. Again, I don't believe we've seen a single AWP in play so far in 8 rounds.
Yeah, just because of the economy, really, to be honest with you. Right now, obviously, Orbit would be able to buy one if he wanted to, but he opted not to. And SK, they have AKs across the board. They have a bunch of utility, and it seems like this aggressiveness right now for Orbit is not working out. Cadian and Asilian getting the first 2 kills, and this is the moment for Victor to back off, but instead decides to become just a frag for Asilian.
Great turn of events for SK Gaming. Better late than ever, I suppose, to get themselves into this map. If they can win the rest of them on this side, which of course is a big if, then they're in solid position still. Orbit still have Punisher and NKL left. NKL has been landing the frag so far, so you can't write them off just yet.
Seems like SK really has read off the possibility of Orbit being really aggressive on the CT side, so this is the moment where Orbit needs to be smart enough to realize this, that SK, they might have an idea of what we like to do on the CT side, and play a little bit more passive. They need to have another option to go with. It cannot be just aggressiveness across the board for them on the CT side.
53 seconds. NKL is going to be the next man to stand up. Only good for 1 kill. Nearly gets the second. That been pretty impressive. And now Punisher steps up and he will be spraying through the smoke. 1 kill for him. But SK have converted that 4-on-2 and will pick up their second round.
Didn't really have to execute, obviously. It was just a matter of the battle of middle. And that's where SK came out on top. Orbit still has the money to buy on this one. Still no AWP in play. Oh, that's interesting. They have all the utility pretty much they need, but this is going to be one of those rounds where this is going to swing things back or forth depending on which side you're looking through or which glasses, I guess, you are looking them through, SK's or Orbit's. Orbit's money is not great, so they need to take this one. Madi, once again, showing a lot of aggressiveness. I think he's going to see NKL. He does. And that's going to be the entry going the way of SK.
Yeah, that's massive as well when you consider that Orbit have already chunked through so much of their utility. They got an incendiary and a HE, a couple of smokes, but not a huge amount. So they're going to be kept on their tiptoes. Can't take anything for granted right now. It's a 2-1-1 formation, leaving A a bit vulnerable. That bomb's still low. Of course, we have the benefit of seeing the mini-map, whereas Orbit don't.
Just a slight benefit. Just a slight benefit. Works in our favor. But this is the moment where Orbit has to take some risks, and look at this. They're going to be doubling up here in side hall. Victor's going to get that first one. They'll get traded away, and there's going to be trades going back and forth now. That makes it a 3-on-3. Bubble is not over with it. He's going to go for another duel and just take away Magic's Boy off the map. But this aggressiveness right now, Orbit, I think they need to cool down a little bit there. Things were looking pretty good. They managed to equalize the situation, but now it's a 2-on-2, and that's where it becomes a little iffy for the CTs.
Modi has the bomb on long. He's going to be joined by his teammate of Pimp. They're going to look for a two-dimensional push. Pimp through drop, as his teammate still has the flashes. HE in the hand of Pimp as well. 25 seconds, though, going to get a move on, and this first kill, this 2v2, could mean everything. If Orbit pick it up and drop the bomb out in nowhere, that pretty much is all she wrote. However, Pimp is going to be peeking around, looking at every single corner, trying to make sure that he clears this out for the bomb carrier. Big headshot, turns around, there's Bubble. 10 seconds left, and Modi is going to get the plant behind the statue. He knows where Bubble, pardon me, is going to be coming from, and that's the rock. But can he land the headshot? As the head is about to peek from him on the left-hand side. No, he's actually looking towards concrete slab, but Bubble finally goes for the peek and lands the headshot. That's so awkward and just unfortunate timing in the end.
Yeah, it's kind of weird to me, right? To be honest with you, the angles that Modi was taking were a little bit too wide. I mean, he was exposing himself to so many possible angles, and it cost him in the end. Obviously, he would not have an idea of where exactly that CT was, but he knew he came through connector. So in that sense, he still had 2 flashes also. So there's a lot of possibilities for Modi to be had. So Orbit coming out on top once again here, and SK deciding to force buy into this round right now. A UMP and a Tech 9, 3 AKs, and a bunch of utility. So that really allows them still to do a full-on execute if they so wish to do. But look at this Punisher. He wants to be a little bit aggressive rather, but deciding against it before the flash is coming.
Oh, good trade out though for SK. Significant damage onto Spy Leader and the first kill. Cadian's down to 23, so he'll likely be switching across the AK-47. Indeed, he picks up the UMP instead. But we have seen SK pick up the first kill before and do nothing with it, and still collapse afterwards. So we know that Orbit are good to hold on to this one. In the positions they're in as well, if SK push, they will be in a crossfire.
Seems like SK really likes to go towards his B-bomb side when they have that entry. And that is exactly what they're setting up to do right now. Setting up those standard smokes to try and isolate the bomb site from the connector and drop zone area. And here comes the first push already. Modi just jumping in before the smokes even lands. He gets the first one. Frank Kale managed to trade it. And now the smokes have landed. And now it becomes a little bit harder for the CTs to hold off.
And Kale able to relocate though, and this is looking great for Orbit. Again, it looks as though SK Gaming gonna let someone slip out their hands. Bubble's gonna spray down onto Cadian. And Pimp, no surprise, he's in the 1v3 again. It's gonna be him. The bomb dropped out in nowhere as far as he's concerned. 33 seconds left, so time itself is starting to become an enemy. He knows where a couple of these players are, but Orbit are just playing it smart. They know the bomb's out on platform. They know that Pimp has to go and salvage this and get onto the site, so don't bother peeking, don't bother giving away free frags. They do finally go for the peek. Pimp gets one, but again, SK had everything going their way.
What is interesting to me really is the dynamic of how they do the execute. They throw the smokes, and as the smokes are flying in, Modi is going to be the only guy jump through the little hole and try to go around and try to get the first entry kills. But the thing is, he has no teammates to back him up. There's no one to trade with. So what that means, I feel like they should have at least another guy going with them as the smokes are flying. I like the idea of, it's similar to Dignitas used to do. It's something that I feel like they invented actually on Mirage, where they would push to A side, but instead of that, we're going to have a bit of a push down the drop zone. There's already SK going just down. We'll continue on that point later.
Spiley's MP9 singing 4 in Bubble. Well, no point even continuing. No. Just an absolute demolish.
Exactly. It's pretty much done with, right? So, but the idea of throwing the smokes and pushing the side before the smokes can land, that gives you that extra 5 seconds or so to work with the smokes being landed and being exploded. So that's an interesting, I think, idea. But the problem really is that you cannot just send one guy and hope. You know, you're basically putting all your eggs in one basket and saying, Modi, you got to take over. You got to take over the site. You got to get the first 2 kills before we come in. Otherwise, it's pretty much over with.
And especially with their weaponry, you can't afford to just sit back. They didn't have a full amount of AKs. They had Tech 9s at a UMP. So you're expecting them to just bounce out. SK have not been able to get 2 consecutive rounds together. They have been destroyed economically speaking. Orbit finally have got themselves in a stable position as well. 9-2 on the CT side of Cobblestone. This is already a pretty solid half from Orbit.
Exactly, Vince. I mean, this is 9 rounds on the CT side is plenty enough. Usually we see around 8-7, 9-6 on the T side, but Orbit already taking it to 9-2 on the CT side. Promises good things to come for them. Another slow round from SK.
taking their sweet time, expecting more aggressiveness from the CTs, but as we can see, they're actually playing a little bit more passive this time around. So SK not going to be able to find all too much down the middle or towards those stairs to side all.
So once again, SK hoping that Orbit hang themselves. And so far, in fairness to Orbit, they have started this tournament extremely strong. Their flashbang goes in, but Pimp is waiting. And finally, maybe this is their moment to strike. Boost spot from Victor is probably going to be good for 1 kill, but it's a one-and-done position. He should get avenged as soon as he opens up.
Yeah, this would be a great moment for SK to actually fake an A push and just go to B, because Orbit noticed, they probably know obviously that the struggle's been real for SK to go on that B bomb side, but instead it's going to be A-side push coming in. Trades going back and forth. Becomes a 3-on-2 favoring SK right now, but the CT on the site could be really rough on the attackers T's right now. Spy Leader is going to get that first kill. Again traded. Now it becomes a 1-on-1.
10 seconds left. Cadian will be able to get this bomb planted as Punisher was coming through the connecting doors. Now it's a game of cat and mouse again, which has always gone the way of Orbit. Last time it was Modi. This time it's Cadian going to be jumping up on top, gets sprayed down, and Orbit will get double digits. I said before, with it being the first game of the day, how are SK going to come into this? Well, the answer is they're still asleep. I don't think they've woken up yet.
No, it seems like it right now. Looking at their body language, it's not looking too chippy, I guess I could say. Because I'm with a British lad here. Actually, 2 British lads, to be honest. But yeah, like you said, I mean, SK still asleep a little bit here. Not being able to string together rounds. Economically, really rough on you. And you know, they're just being a little bit lackluster so far. I mean, the initial idea they have of taking over middle, pop flashing themselves in, they trade well, but it's the final push and the final execute really is lackluster so far. Now, with the limited equipment they have in this round, see how they change the dynamic.
Very likely going to be desperate for some rounds now, knowing that 2 is simply not good enough on the T side of Cobblestone. Bubble, he's going to get the kill before the smoke expands in front of him. The spray is out. Orbit looking good once again. In command. Spy Leader gets flashed, but still going to get the spray done to a ceiling. He drops the bomb out just outside a truck. Now the remaining terrorists are going to have to try and congregate and push their way in. Pimp with 1. Not good for a second. And his teammate has fallen. So it's all on Pimp. He's got a lot of time to play with, though, Natu. He's not forced to push in just yet.
Some HP, he can still grab the bomb, but look at this. Oh, Pimp is going to get that kill on the Punisher before NKL comes in. It's going to seal the deal. 11-2 for Orbit. What a great CT half for them.
This is just unbelievable what I'm witnessing. I see Cobblestone come up. I'm thinking it's going to be extremely close, but I'm favoring SK. Well, just goes to show predictions.
Both said. Yeah, I have a hunch that predicting in this tournament is going to be super tough.
That's what we said coming into it, right? It's a super highly competitive tournament where a lot of different teams could win. I personally didn't think Orbit stood a chance to go the distance, but I don't know, maybe I'm going to be proven wrong as time goes on. I'm not going to say off this performance like they're definitely getting through to the finals. It's early days.
Yeah, it's still not over. And here comes another push. Another push from Madi before anything happens, really. No one trying to trade that kill. NKL getting a 3-1 and making it a 5-on-4 in favor of Orbit to start things off. This is where the hot-headedness starts to come into play as well for SK. The comms may be a little bit lackluster, but that's mainly going to spur them on, inspire them. Asilian is there with the UMP. Finally, we've seen something from SK, but with Punisher and Victor still alive, and that grenade landing by the feet, and 2 players very low for SK. This is very doable from Punisher. Second kill comes in, but he gets traded out, and finally we see something from SK. But again, it's going to be tough since they only had 1 player left alive in that round, so it means that they will have barely any money to work with in this, I believe it's the last round of the half.
Yep.
But this time around, a bit of a different execute from the SK guys. They sent, once again, the Madi to death, like they like to do. Seems like they don't like Madi, to be honest with you. They're just sending them to death alone. Why not?
Sacrificial lamb.
Smoking off the B bomb side, and then I believe it's 3 of the T's just running through to the drop room. And they managed to take the crucial kills, but as we can see, it's going to be Spy Leader boosted up. He's going to get the first one. Madi going to get another one, though. Trades in a 4-4. It was Spy Leader. Oh, that's a long spray, not working out. So early advantage to Wave SK.
The fact that Spy Leader even gets a kill and nearly picks up a second is like mind-boggling to me. That should have been an instant avenging kill coming in from Magic's boy. Maybe, again, just showing that SK not firing on all cylinders. They do have a player advantage, and there's 0 grenades in the hands of Orbit, which is going to be an issue. As we spoke about before, grenades key to a CT's success.
And Indeed it is, and they are backing on this B-bomb side, the CTs right now. That's where they have two of their players. Bubble, though, might see Magic's Boy. I think he sees Sand. Yep, it does. And that's going to initiate Magic's Boy to just fall back. Meanwhile, though, Vasilian already made his way to drop zone, drop room, just waiting for a potential CT to try and rotate.
45 seconds left on the timer. Bomb is going to be traversing its way over towards the A side, which is where Cadian has just picked up the kill into Victor, who was the lone A defender, so it's very unlikely that Orbit stopped this plant from going down. But with it being the last round of the half, of course, they're going to be going in for this one 100%. And KL will land the first kill. And a lot of damage has been exchanged as well through the doors. Magic's Boy now down to 12. Bomb planted, though. Again, you fancy SK can wrap this up, right?
Yeah, no kit for Orbit either. Bubble's going to be on fire, literally. But it gets the kill onto Madi somehow. That's going to make it a 2-on-2. Now, things get a little bit more dicey for SK, considering Magic's Boy's HP is really low. Bubble might be able to get on one on Cadian, but instead Cadian coming out on top with a UMP.
That's the one, and KL first headshot. Well, actually, it's not even a headshot, just a body shot onto Magic's, and he's going to be looking for the spray down onto Cadian, and again, Orbit are going to bag themselves. He's going to go for the defuse, and all Matu can do is shake his head.
It's so close. Is he going to make it? That's the question right now. It's coming down to the wire. Literally, no, he's not going to make it. The bomb goes off, and that's going to be finally SK winning 2 rounds in a row on their T side, I believe.
Unfortunately for them, though, it just puts them at 4 rounds overall on T side. Matu's now choking. Maybe off this SK performance, he's done. He doesn't want to watch anymore.
Excuse me.
Physically hurts him.
It does. Wow. SK, why are you doing this to me?
It's pistol round or bust.
A bit of water. I should be fine.
Yeah, you'll be good to go. So, 4-11, if you just joined us. Yes, it has been that one-sided. There's been a couple of 1v1s that have gone the way of Orbit, but they've definitely deserved this lead. And if SK can't pick up the pistol, I mean, that is them pretty much just bowing out straight away in this first best of 1. And a best of 1 that they would have been fancying themselves to win.
Exactly. They even got the comfort of Cobblestone, a map that they really do like and have a lot of good results on. But, yeah, I mean, their executes were a little bit lackluster. Their initial plans were good. They have a good fundamental idea of how to take over middle, how to isolate the part of the map towards CT spawn and the more aggressive parts of the side all and the middle. And oftentimes they actually manage to trade effectively, make it into like a 4-on-3 or even a 3-on-2 situation. But it was just especially those B-bomb side pushes that were a little bit lackluster. But now we're going to have Orbit on the T side, and they have 1 set of nades, just a smoke and a grenade, and 4 pieces of armor, and they're taking things slow.
Certainly are. The bomb out just outside of long A. 2 smokes in play. First headshot goes down. It's going to be Magic's Boy and long. Nicely done. This is what SK were hoping for. Clear-cut kills. And this pistol round. But here comes the retaliation push from Orbit. 3 players strong. Coming up long. Going down dangerous. They may very well look to opt to go through mid instead. But there's still options open for them. Damage is being exchanged across. Pimp is going to take a bit. He has been the top performer from SK. I believe he has the most kills right now. I do worry a bit for you, Natty. I want to give you a hug. He's struggling a little bit right now. It's like having a coughing fit.
Oh my gosh. I don't know what's going on. There's something in the air, obviously.
You have been traveling a lot recently, in fairness, so it's probably fatigue to an extent.
Could be.
Here we go, though. It's going to be the charge coming in from Orbit. Finally, they've flirted with the idea. Muddy with 2 headshots. This is looking so much better for SK Gaming. Surely Spy Leader can't clutch this one. He's going to get the bomb at least. That now gives Orbit the opportunity to get the force buy of AKs in the 3rd round on this half. So they do manage to salvage something from this, but a really solid pistol round overall for SK, and that's just what they were hoping for.
Exactly what they needed. Madi getting huge kills there, open things up on that A side, and making things easier for his SK side. I think that was a clean sweep also for SK. They didn't lose a single member.
I think they lost 1.
Did they? All right.
I think so.
Close to being a clean sweep anyway.
In fairness, you were close to death, so I'll let you off.
Yeah, thank you. I'm still about to die, to be honest with you, but I'll try to manage. But let's see now. The interesting part, obviously, is if Orbit's going to be forced buying into this. Well, I think the answer is quite obvious. They are. They have 2 UMPs, Mac 10s. Why not? And about Tech 9 and a push through the drop zones coming in. It's going to be kills being traded.
Very surprising to me, but Orbit have forced sport before. And reap the rewards for the aggression. Magix is holding off on Rock. Very nearly gets a second kill, but now all falls to Cadian. UMP frag comes in. He's going to get tagged from the left-hand side as he looks to back himself into drop zone. The bomb out in a salvageable position for Bubble, and he's got an M4. And Cadian's low.
Exactly. That's the problem right now. Bubble's being really patient, Cadian not, and that's going to be Bubble taking advantage of the situation. Another force buy going the wave orbit, and that might be the last call for SK on this map.
It's nuts, isn't it? Because the reason it surprised me is, like, you get the bomb plants, and they have a massive lead, they're like 11-5 up, you're thinking, okay, this is the moment to play a bit more securely. And I think our questions have been answered. Are Orbit going to go back to force buying all the time?
Obviously
yes.
they are.
Yes, they are.
But on this map, actually, drop room is a really good spot to go with the Tech 9s. Go with those short range weapons. Now, that's where it becomes a matter of the CTs have to be smart enough to play passively. But that's enough of that. That's going to be a push coming in from Orbit right now, and then get a first kill on the Cadian. Seems like SK, though, they've not opted to force buy. Instead, they're actually saving.
If they force from this point and lose, it's pretty much GG. So
that's very much true.
This does put a lot of pressure into their next buy round, though. It's pretty much that or end up losing.
Yeah, the question is if they're going to be buying at 13-5 or at 14-5. So basically FAMAS's or just a full buy with basically no room for error for the SK side. And it seems like Orbit's going to get away with a really clean anti-eco, which obviously great for their economy going further on this half.
Here's a question for you as well, Natu.
Sure.
Have we seen a single orb? I don't think we've seen a single orb
no,
in
it's
19
not.
rounds
It's
now.
not. Yeah, it hasn't been a part of their game plan. It seems like.
25-7 for Bubble. That is pretty significant fragging.
Well, like I said in the pre-show, he's the guy to watch for Orbit, and for a reason. He had a massive tournament in Copenhagen Games. That's well, obviously we saw them at the ESC Premier Finals, losing to Hellraise in the semi-final, but other than that, they went all the way through to the final of Copenhagen Games just a couple of months ago, and Bubble was the main man of the team.
Well, it's hard to really argue with that point, and certainly hard to argue with the fact that Orbit have definitely woken up much earlier than SK have in this tournament. It's the first game, there's still a lot of Counter-Strike to be played. SK will be reeling after this, but they can claw themselves back. And, well, you were curious if we could see the Force come in or a full buy in round 20. Has been answered. It's going to include 2 UMPs, a P90 and 2 FAMAS's.
This is where I want to see some aggressiveness, and I want to see some kind of a set piece here for the CTs and have an idea, because when they have the UMPs and P90s, well, you got to make sure you have close combat, obviously. So that's when you want to have some kind of aggressiveness.
Yep.
But it doesn't seem like they have too much up their sleeve right now for this round. Instead, it seems quite a default for them. In the meanwhile, Orbit taking things slow. They're building things up, taking over middle, and then they are waiting for that potential aggressiveness, which is nowhere to be found from SK.
I suppose the counter-argument for SK, though, is if they do hold themselves back, if they assume that Orbit haven't upgraded either of their Mach 10s, Orbit also have to get up close and personal. So that could play into crossfires from SK. But that's a lot of maybes, ifs, and buts, and that means that you're giving the impetus, you're giving the aggression across to the enemy, and they're dictating the pace of the action. Molly can't get a single kill from that position. He'll hope that he at least got 1 or maybe even 2, but Spyler just down to 39 instead.
It's a bit of a disgrace for the UMP, but here comes the push from Orbit. They're going to be trading effectively. Magix Boy, though, going to make it a 3-on-3 in the end. Well, that means that the B bomb side has effectively been lost. And I think the 2 Ts, Orbit, here, they've realized it. Yep, they've realized the fact. It's going to be 1 CT towards the rock. In fact, all of the 3 of them towards that connector. And here comes the push from the CTs.
This is SK. You've got to win this round. Spy Leader from the back is going to execute Magic's Boy. And now that leaves a very one-dimensional retake from SK Gaming. No defuse kit, only a smoke, just a FAMAS and the P90 against 2 assault rifles. Spy Leader, not good for the frag, but we'll get cleaned up from Bubble. Now it's all on Pimp again, FAMAS in hand. He's going to be charging in, going to trade up for the AK-47. Does get a defuse kit. He's got grenades as well, and I think purely on the basis the bomb's been ticking down, it will be a save for SK, but it's not going to get that far, is it? The Mach 10 is chasing him, and Pimp will fall prey to 14-5 scoreline.
Yeah, MVP in that 3-on-3 situation. No Spy Leader getting that kill. Bubble is happy. He's about 30 bomb here. But yeah, Spy Leader, massive job there in the 3-on-3, getting the kill in the drop room, and then just holding, no face. 3-on-2 advantage. Bomb is ticking down. You don't need to do anything. You just wait. The CTs they know the fact that there's 1 T in that position. It's basically gonna slow them down so much that there's nothing for them to do. And as we can see, it's going to be a really, really costly buy here for SK Gaming. MP9, Max 7, 5.7, just pretty much the whole buffet of weapons here for the CT side.
It is a bargain bucket buy-up, isn't it? This is like you're scraping the very bottom of the barrel.
Pretty much, yeah.
And of course, you don't want to be saving this kind of situation because then it puts Orbit on 10 match points and try and somehow salvage this, but all signs point towards Orbit taking this one convincingly from here, barring a miraculous comeback from SK. I'd love to see it, but I just don't see it happening.
No, yeah, so far nothing indicates towards that, to be honest with you. Just being an Orbit way better, but look at this cadence, just taking a lot of aggressive moves here. It's not going to be paying off. Spy Leader getting the first kill, taking matters worse for SK in this situation. Just Pimp here up close. The MP9, he's going to take that duel. Ooh, almost comes out on top. NKL down to 20 HP, but situation still favors Orbit massively.
Indeed it does. They'll be looking to push in, but they have lost another player. Modi finally starting to awaken from his slumber, getting the kills on the board as soon as the CT side came to fruition. And with Orbit eating a bit of damage on NKL and Spy Leader, Cillian should be good for some kills. I think he's bottom fragging right now. Definitely hasn't had the best of games, and it's going to be Punisher actually coming around the corner, accompanied by the flashbang that allows them to plant the bomb. All three players from Orbit just a couple bullets away from death, but they're getting the kills where it counts, and Punisher with a double spray down gives Orbit 10 match points. And the Bulgarians are just unrelenting. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, he's not happy, is he?
That's a good talking to, isn't it?
Yeah. It's like, we're winning. It's like 15-5, but I'm not happy. Screwed that flash up. No, obviously, some great team play there. Attacking that A side. Cillian totally blinded in a prime position to potentially get at least the one kill, but that was the flash that flashed him was the MVP of the situation. And Orbit, they got 10 match points.
Again, SK digging deep for some weapons. Max 7, pretty solid weapon when it comes to Cobblestone. 5.7 as well. And now Orbit with the bomb. Just drops outside of drop zone. The rest of the team filtering in. SK. This is another one of those rounds where you're expecting maybe some high progressive plays, and the Cillian is going to oblige pushes up B platform.
Indeed, that is very true. And Orbit taking their sweet time right now. You want to make sure when you are the one in the lead that you are trading effectively. You don't want to get any freebies to the team for its buying who are down 5 to 15. And well, I guess the best option, to be honest with you, is just try to make sure you have the control of that B long, and they just do a set B piece. Have all the Molotovs, all the smokes, all the flashes, just all 9 yards. Make it happen, but as you can see, SK playing aggressively, so now Orbit needs to make sure they take over that B long first. Mod is going to get a kill on the Spy Leader before Punisher gets one on the Cillian. So that's going to be early trades happening here.
What you said needed to happen has. Orbit have traded effectively. They're not letting SK get any room. They're choking them out in this close claustrophobic environment. 30 seconds left. SK only have 5 HP on Modi, but Pimp is going to put down the hammer with the FAMAS. Meanwhile, Victor pushing up. He was spoilt for choice. He assumed someone was in chicken coop, which indeed he was, but Magix was up on the platform. He can't get a second kill from the position. And now Orbit with 15 seconds have to get a move on. Player has been spotted in the chicken coop. NKL going to be trying to hunt him down. And that's going to be Modi, who somehow actually comes out with a 5.7, lands a headshot, spins around, and keeps SK alive. I don't know if you heard that, but Pala, he enjoyed that.
He definitely did, and yeah, I mean, well, this is still, I think, just delaying the inevitable, but still a nice play there. And SK survives another round. I do think Orbit should be good for a buy here, and they are. Well, when you're Orbit, it doesn't really matter what it says in your bank account. It's still good for a buy for them, really. But you have AK-47s, 1 Galil, and just a bunch of utility work with. So basically a full buy when you're Orbit.
They're effectively like the economic optimists, right? 50 bucks, force buy. Let's do this. Let's get the decoys, boys. And, well, wouldn't you just know it? Orbit come out, all guns blazing. Grenade lands by the feet of Pimp. Doesn't need as much damage as I expected, but his teammates are falling around him. Cillian is the next to fall. Magic's boy does come back with a FAMAS kill. 3 on 2. The smokes and flashes are connecting, but it now all falls to Pimp again with the M4, and he's going to get picked off long range. Orbit with a very convincing win, proving my prediction utterly worthless.
I think that applies to both of us, to be honest with you. I think this is going to be a theme here where it's going to be super hard to make predictions because, like we said before this tournament, these teams, when it comes to skill, are quite equally matched. But you would have thought coming into this that it's Cobblestone. SK really has had some great wins. They're coming off from a great performance in Sivo. That this is going to be the moment where SK finally rise from the ashes. But instead, it's going to be the guys from Orbit who just mow SK down.
SK are not going to be happy about that at all because not only did they lose, they lost extremely convincingly.
Yeah.
What happened? What was the main thing that you guys saw there? Because for me, we spoke about it beforehand. There was that Orbit forcing. Sometimes it doesn't go quite according to plan. They won the first 3 pistols and they lost the first 3 rounds, the pistol rounds, and then the 4th round they lost it. But then they forced up on that 5th round, and from there it's just like they took over the match. It seemed.
Yeah, for me at least, like I said in the cast there, the thing with SK is that the early parts of the round are actually, they structure them well. They have an idea of what to do. They want to isolate certain parts of the map towards the A site and make sure if there's any aggressiveness from the CGs, which they were expecting from Orbit a lot, they would be making sure they're effectively trading kills, making it into a 4-3, making it at least a 3-on-3 situation, which obviously benefits the C side. The problem really was when they were actually executing to a bomb site is where they became really lackluster, to be honest with you, especially their B bomb site pushes. Just I don't like the idea of them sending one player, which is Madi, to death every time, basically. They're putting all their eggs in one basket where they're hoping for Madi to be making all the plays, getting all the kills. There's no possibility for a trade for anyone, really. So it really, the end game of the rounds is what it was the issue for me, really. And obviously all the clutches went the way of the Orbit guys.
Yeah, and we're actually going to have an interview with NKL, who's just joined us on the desk. Congratulations. How's that for you? Good? Nice. All right, yeah, put the mic down.
Pretty awesome.
Yeah, so how can you give us a rundown from you guys' perspective of how the match went?
I think it was good because they took like a T, they picked T, so I was expecting them to be better. I mean, but the good thing for us was that, for example, we reset their money like twice, and it was pretty easier for us to finish the half like such a result. And I think in the past few days, we practiced Cobble a lot, so we knew how they play on it.
Yeah, I was going to ask actually, because we know SK is really comfortable on Cobblestone. Yeah. Was there a certain weakness you saw in the map from SK that you wanted to exploit, or was it just because you guys felt comfortable on Cobblestone recently?
I think it's the second one we felt comfortable. Yeah. That's.
And so, what do you think your overall chances are in this tournament? Do you think you can get into that top 2 position and guarantee yourself offline qualification for ESL 1?
First of all, we're focused to pass the group stage because, as everyone should know, that best of 1 is really hard, and our group is not that like weak. There are good teams like Dignitas, Epsilon, SK are good as well, and we're happy to play with Dignitas or Epsilon because we played them twice on LAN and we didn't lost like any of each. So.
Something that I'd like to get your opinion on that we were speaking about before is that about a year and a half ago, you guys were really starting to rise as a team, but there's been maybe a bit of a slowdown in momentum, so to speak, at least from an outsider's perspective. How much potential do you think that you guys still have, and how do you think you guys are doing overall as a team?
I think every single team has like ups and downs, and I'm not sure where we are right now, but we're feeling confident, and as much as we play, we learn a lot of new things, and the fact that we're playing with standing here, it's kind of like bad for us, but Punisher is doing well right now, and we're happy with his performance.
Have you ever thought about making the change permanent? Because obviously the situation doesn't seem to be progressing when it comes to Dreamer and the whole situation with them. So have you guys ever actually thought about permanently maybe picking up Punisher to make sure that you're not switching around with players to maybe build better consistency with the team?
No, not really. I mean, we made this team with Dreamer, and I guess until Valve made the same statement or fixed the issue with them, we'll play with them. I mean, I don't know. We're pretty sure that he didn't cheat or so.
Yeah. So you plan to continue then until you guys feel you get a proper result from that discussion. Well, congratulations again on that first match, and you will be playing the winner of the other teams facing off in your group. And so for now, I think we are going to head into the statistics from that match. Thank you very much, NKL, for your time. Appreciate it. Guys, do you want to run us through those stats?
Well, Bubble, right? That's the instant attraction. 27 and 9, a KDA of 3.
Yeah, I mean, like I said during the cast, he was the go-to guy in Copenhagen games where Orbit, or then known as eFrag, had a massive run, made it all the way to the finals, lost to Hellraisers quite narrowly in a best of 3 series, but Bobble was the guy, obviously. So NKL guy you don't really see highlighted too often, also sitting at 23. But looking at the other side of the spectrum, obviously, Asilian, what an atrocious game from him.
Yeah, 7 for 20.
But at the same time, when you think about SK's performance overall, I mean, that's not going to give any favors to anyone individually when their team is playing as they were. Just a lackluster. I think Vince probably put it in a nutshell quite well. They haven't woken up yet.
Yeah, I think sometimes in CS, a team just gets comprehensively outplayed. And there's not just one part of the puzzle that's missing. It's like the jigsaw's not even in the same room as you, So,
or same city.
What was interesting? What was interesting from my perspective is that up into about round 10, it was about 7-2 to Orbit. They still weren't economically completely stable. There were many close rounds in there for SK, but SK didn't. They just didn't clutch up and they didn't make the rounds go in their favor.
Yeah, I mean, must have been a tough one for Katie. I think he was in 3 or 4 one-on-one situations. He lost all of them, I believe. So, especially when you're in the standing, you really want to give that extra little bit to your team, and then your losing end of a lot of those one-on-ones has to be tough. So, I mean, in that sense, like we said, SK managed to build up the rounds. It was just a matter of the end game of each round that was the problem. Even though they managed to create quite a bit of one-on-ones, which means that from a strategic point of view, you've done some things right, obviously, when you've been able to trade it down to one-on-one, but the clutch situation gone away of Orbit, left, right, and center.
Metas, should we go forwards a bit here and talk about the potential matchup that SK will be having? Because SK are going to end up playing the loser of Epsilon Dignitas. Is that a more favorable situation for them compared to what we've just seen?
Not necessarily. If they play like that, there's a lot of individual talent on Epsilon's team. You've got Disco Doppler, who's a really solid player. Freddy's a good player as well. So if they don't really show up and they make massive mistakes, they don't get avenging frags on T side, which is unforgivable. That's just the basics of Counter-Strike. Then I can see them losing that match as well. They simply just didn't show up in that match at all.
Yeah, well, I just still think they're going to be finding their way to the decider match, unless something really weird happens and Epsilon beats Dignitas, and then it's going to be a SK versus Dignitas where you just...
That would be very, very tragic, I think, for both of those teams.
Yeah.
It would be like what we were talking about in the initial introduction, is that if both those teams don't live up to the pressure and they crumble slightly, they're going to have a very hard time in that loser bracket match.
But still, you got to expect that SK would come out on top, and we just heard it's going to be 15-11 right now for Dignitas versus Epsilon in the other game.
Okay, so that's the current score.
That's the current score line.
Okay, 15-11 to Dignitas. We'll see if they can close that out shortly. I guess we'll have word in our ears, and we will be able to tell you all exactly what match is coming up, maybe by the end of this segment. Looking forward then to what is the next match that we are having live that you guys are going to be casting? It's the first match in Group B, which I think, if I'm not mistaken, I have it written down here. Okay, we're waiting. Okay, first off, we're waiting for the result of that first.
And then we're doing we're doing the winner match.
Yeah. Okay. Fantastic. And well, I mean, any final thoughts then on that first matchup?
I mean, kudos Orbit for really playing well, and they. Again, we saw a lot of force buying. I think we're going to be seeing a lot more of it, and it just happens. The thing is with this team is why they keep force buying is because they win the force buys every now and again. Now, this time around against SK, worked out quite well on the SK counterpart. I mean, initial rounds on the T side actually promising, but just the matter of their executes towards the end of the round were just lackluster.
Metas, any final thoughts from you?
Best of 1 format's rough. If SK don't step up things, they're going to end up getting knocked out, which is a massive disappointment, seeing as how well they did at the SEVO LAN.
Yeah, well, I guess we'll just have to see what happens. For now, are we okay to maybe go? Are we going to a break or anything, or are we going to keep
You're
going?
you're the host, really, so
I'm
going to expect you to know this stuff.
Yeah, I'm the host, but there's, as we all know, an ethereal beings backstage that kind of...
There's a god in your ear.
There's a god in my ear that I'm hoping will talk to me. And yes, we're going to look at a little breakdown on screen right now. And so thankfully for that. A group breakdown. I think it will be coming up very shortly either way. Metas, you're looking fantastic. Repping the CSGO, I love that.
Mate, I'm such a scrub.
Yeah.
I packed 2 shirts instead of 3, so I was like,
Well, dude, bro, you're looking swagged out anyway. And talking about a swagged out other style graphic, we've got that on screen. The group stage right now, as it stands, of course, we've just seen SK lose to Orbit 16-6, relatively convincing defeat. They are moving on to the winners match, Team Orbit, and they will be playing the winner of the other match that's going on right now, Dignitas Epsilon. And SK will be playing the loser, and then we'll have our decider match later in the day.
Which is a best of 3, of course.
Best of 3,
Yep.
yeah. So every match that we have other than the deciders are best of 1s.
Yes, I like the idea that also you're going to be having a double elimination when it comes to the playoff bracket as well. So we're definitely, I think it has to be said, we're going to have the best 2 candidates into the major qualifier by the end of this.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. And now, guys, thank you very much for the input so far, because we are going to head to a commercial. Before we go to a commercial break, we have had confirmation. Dignitas won 16-11, so that means we are going to have Orbit facing off against Dignitas, which should be an absolutely awesome match. And then, of course, it will be Epsilon versus SK in the losers match. And so for now, we're going to head to a commercial break and be back in about 20 minutes.